Indeed, Your Holiness, we are honored, humbled, and privileged that you have chosen to begin your apostolic voyage to Africa right here in Kenya. And we take this opportunity to welcome you to Kenya as we also welcome you to Africa. Holiness, Scripture tells us that if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and forgive their sins, and I will heal their land. That, Holy Father, is our prayer today, as it is on our National Day of Prayer and Reflection tomorrow. We pray and reflect, Your Holiness, because Kenya present combines great opportunity also with great challenges. Challenges that have their parallel in those facing the church. Kenya's future depends on upholding the highest standards of integrity in governance, in inclusivity, and in the protection of peace. Your Holiness, like you, as a nation, we want to combat the vices of corruption which sacrifice people and our environment in the pursuit of illegal profit. Indeed, it misdirects resources, sows hatred, and divides our people. Your Holiness, civil society, media, and leaders from across our political and social spectrum all have come together and made their views known. And in the hearts of every Kenyan, we know we must win this war, and it falls on me to lead it. And Holy Father, I ask for your prayer. As we fight this war, recent events around the world have indeed taught us that we must do even more to bring unity and understanding between faiths, between ethnicities, between races, but also between nations. At the heart of so many of these conflicts is the powerful human desire for dignity. That desire is natural and good, but too often we fail to recognize or respect it in others. Too often, that failure to recognize or respect encourages conflict and violence. Your Holiness, Kenya's unique history has left us with diverse identities. It was an inevitable consequence of colonialism that communities artificially divided by borders would identify as citizens of different nation states. We have also been divided by our own selfish politicization of our ethnic and religious identities. These rifts leaves us with work to do if we are to maintain the cohesion and inclusivity that is the foundation of lasting peace. Right now, the priority must be dialogue between faiths and indeed between all of us in the hope of developing deeper understanding and respect. I am pleased to say that religious leaders across the country have risen to the challenge. They have worked with government, with faith-based organizations, and with a wide range of Kenyan and foreign partners in the cause of peace. And indeed, Your Holiness, your presence here today galvanizes these efforts. In Kenya, the Church has been a partner, a long partner of the state in the integral development without which any hope of cohesion and inclusivity would be in vain. The Church has been a strong partner in the social and economic development of Kenya throughout our modern history. Through its diocese in Kenya, the Church is our largest non-state provider of healthcare, with nearly 500 healthcare units and over 50 community-based orphanages and programs for vulnerable children. The Church has served us equally well in education. The selfless work of the earliest missionaries left us the basis for the wide network of Catholic schools, and today Kenya now boasts over 8,000 primary and secondary schools, 5 colleges, and a fully fledged university identified with the Church. And if I may be allowed to say so, Your Holiness, I also am a beneficiary of Catholic education. The work of the Church continues to improve the lives of Kenyans and to help knit this nation together. Your Holiness, Kenyans are blessed with a beautiful country, and with that beauty comes a great responsibility. We must preserve our heritage and bequeath not just to our children, but also to the world for which we hold these riches in trust. Yet these riches remain vulnerable. Climate change and greed, poaching, all these threaten to rob our children and their children of their inheritance. However, we have hope because troubles also bring heroes and heroines. Your Holiness, one such heroine was Wangari Maathai, our Nobel laureate, who reminded all of us that millions of little actions, millions of humble people working together could indeed win great battles. Like you, she believed that loving our nature, our natural riches, was an extension of loving our brothers and sisters first. Like you, she was a warrior for nature without falling into cynicism and despair. As I conclude, Your Holiness, I close by asking that you pray for me. You pray that as I lead this nation, God will lead me. And I ask you to pray for Kenya. And I also ask that you pray for Kenya and that God will hear us and indeed heal this land. With those few welcoming remarks, Your Holiness, it is now my pleasure and honor to invite you to address the people of Kenya. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, honorable government and civil leaders, distinguished member of the diplomatic corps, my brother bishops, ladies and gentlemen, I am most grateful for your warm welcome on this, my first visit to Africa. I thank you, Mr. President, for your kind words in the name of the Kenyan people, and I look forward to my stay among you. Kenya is a young and vibrant nation, a richly diverse society which plays a significant role in the region. In many ways, your experience of shaping a democracy is one shared by many other African nations. Like Kenya, they too are working to build on the solid foundations of mutual respect, dialogue, and cooperation, a multi-ethnic society which is truly harmonious, just, and inclusive. Yours too is a nation of young people. In these days, I look forward to meeting many of them, speaking with them, and encouraging their hopes and aspirations for the future. The young are any nation's most valuable resource. To protect them, to invest in them, and to offer them a helping hand is the best way we can ensure a future worthy of the wisdom and spiritual values dear to their elders, values which are the very heart and soul of a people. Kenya has been blessed not only with immense beauty in its mountains, rivers and lakes, its forests, savannas and semi-deserts, but also by an abundance of natural resources. The Kenyan people have a strong appreciation of these God-given treasures and are known for a culture of conservation which does you honor. The grave environmental crisis facing our world demand an ever greater sensitivity to relationship between human beings and nature. We have a responsibility to pass on the beauty of nature and its integrity to the future generations, and an obligation to exercise a just stewardship of the gifts we have received. These values are deeply rooted in the African soul. In a world which continues to exploit rather than protect our common home, they must inspire the effort of national leaders to promote responsible models of economic development. In effect, there is a clear link between the protection of nature and the building of a just and equitable social order. There can be no renewal of our relationship with nature without a renewal of humanity itself. To the extent that our societies experience divisions, whether ethnic, religious, or economic, all men and women of goodwill are called to work for reconciliation and peace, forgiveness and healing, in the work of building a sound democratic order, threatening cohesion and integration, tolerance and respect for others, the pursuit of the common good must be a primary goal. Experience shows that violence, conflict, and terrorism feed on fear, mistrust, and despair born of poverty and frustration. Ultimately, the struggle against these enemies of peace, of prosperity, must be carried on by men and women who fearlessly believe in and bear honest witness to the great spiritual and political values which inspired the birth of the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, the advancement and preservation of these great values is entrusted in a special way to you, the leaders of your country's political, cultural, and economic life. This is a great responsibility, a true calling in the service of the entire Kenyan people. The gospel tells us that from those to whom much has been given, much will be demanded. In that spirit, I encourage you to work with integrity and transparency for the common good, and to foster a spirit of solidarity at every level of society. I ask you in particular to show genuine concern for the needs of the poor, the aspirations of the young, and a just distribution of the natural and human resources with which the Creator has blessed your country. I assure you of the continuing efforts of the Catholic community through his educational and charitable works to offer its specific contribution in these areas. Dear friends, I am told that here in Kenya it is tradition for young school children to plant trees for prosperity. May this eloquent sign of hope in the future and trust in the growth which God gives sustain all of you in your efforts to cultivate a society of solidarity, justice, and peace on the soil of this country and throughout the great Africa continent. I thank you once more for your warm welcome, and upon you and your families and all the beloved Kenyan people, I invoke the Lord's abundant blessings. Mungu abariki Kenya.
Pope Francis ending his discourse there with Mungu abariki Kenya in Swahili, which means God bless Kenya.
As His Excellency the President escorts the Holy Father. Thank you.
Everyone's being asked to stay on their feet as the President accompanies the Holy Father in introducing him to the part of the President's entourage. We see Monsignor Miles there helping him translate. There's about 10 who will be introduced to the Holy Father.
I humbly request all of us to remain standing where we are, kindly.
Again, many just being asked to remain as a sign of respect on their feet as the Holy Father makes his way out of the gathering. As a sign of respect, and we hear the great applause as he and the President both make their way out. A short discourse.
Umeweza kukifuatilia. Imekuwa ni hotuba ya Rais Uhuru Kenyatta.
The locals are being asked there. Those gathered there are being asked not to follow them out of the tent, give them some distance as they make their way. Again, the Holy Father beginning his trip here to Kenya, being welcomed, a very warm welcome by the President of the country, President Kenyatta, who said, "We're very honored that you chose Kenya as your first stop on this trip and as your first trip ever to the African continent." He gave him a very warm welcome and spoke of the Church's great role in working with the government in areas like healthcare and education, and mentioned that he himself was the benefactor of receiving a Catholic education, and he was very happy about that. The Holy Father, in his discourse, touched on, first of all, thanking everyone for the great welcome he has received. He talked about the many gifts which Kenya has to offer the Church. He spoke about the young people, and he said he can't wait. He's very much looking forward to meeting with many of the young people, speaking with them, he said, encouraging them to their hopes and aspirations for the future, saying the young are any nation's most valuable resource, and the need to protect them and invest in them and so on, and to care for their spiritual values. And the Holy Father, as we thought he might, he mentioned not only the immense beauty of Kenya and its mountains and rivers, as the Holy Father mentioned. They have a strong appreciation of these God-given treasures, Pope Francis pointed out. And he also he tied the effects of climate change, the need for conservation. And he said this environmental crisis facing our world demands an ever greater sensitivity to the relationship between human beings and nature. This is something that will probably come up throughout the papal visit. Again, this is Pope Francis's 11th foreign trip outside of Italy as the 266th successor of Peter. We're just getting started. There's so much left to do. we will leave you here with the sights and sound of this, his very first discourse. He's got 18 more to go. So make sure wherever you're following this ceremony today that you tune back in and follow Pope Francis as he goes from Kenya to Uganda to the Central African Republic. And as we begin the Year of Mercy here in the periphery in the Central African Republic on Sunday, where the Holy Father will open one of the holy doors. For my part, I'm Mary Shelvin. On behalf of all of us here at Vatican Radio and Vatican Television Center, thank you so much for joining us.